Today, I'm back with another mega ranking for you all. I'm going to be ranking all the Scream films. Yes, all 5 of the Scream movies from the worst to the best. So if you want to see my number 1 favorite Scream movie of all time, make sure you stick around to the very end of the video to see my number 1 favorite choice. Also, spoiler warning in effect here. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about some spoilers in each of these movies. So make sure you watch those movies before you finish this ranking. But without further ado, let's get started!
What's your favorite scary movie?
Now to get into that number 5th spot, yes, last place is going to be Scream 4. Yeah, I really don't like Scream 4. It's the only Scream movie that I don't enjoy. Now, I know some people like this one, but to me, it was painfully obvious from the beginning that Jill was going to be a killer. You could just tell by her demeanor and personality and attitude. You just knew that there was something up there going wrong and that she was going to be a killer. So that reveal at the end to me wasn't shocking, even though the second killer to me was a little bit more surprising. I just didn't think he was a good choice to be a second additional killer. And this movie to me is just kind of a snooze fest. It's the only Scream that will actually get me sleepy when watching it, so it's actually a tough fight to try to get through a rewatch of this one. And to me, the characters just make so many stupid choices, and I know that's a horror movie trope, but like, these are painfully stupid choices, and just none of the characters in this movie are likable, and I think that's the problem. I have to have some likable characters in a horror movie to root for, or then the movie just becomes a complete bore.
Welcome to the final act.
Now getting into that 4th place spot is going to be Scream 3. Now I think this movie is enjoyable. I still have a fun time rewatching this movie. I do think they get some things right here, and I like how they change gears at different points in this movie. I think Cotton is a fascinating character at the beginning of this movie, so for the short amount of scenes he has, I think that's an interesting opening. Also, when we get to the final reveal, I liked how they changed it to be only one killer now instead of having 2 killers like they did before in the other movies. So I think that's a good change of pace. I also liked how they connected the Roman villain character to Sidney Prescott and also to Billy Loomis, connecting all those story threads together. I thought that was quite interesting, and so I liked how they included that in the movie. But overall, this movie isn't higher on the list because the other parts of the movie aren't very memorable. To me, there's not really any memorable death sequences of any means, and the other supporting characters, to me, they're fine, they're just not great. Now, the core original characters are good in this movie, but just all the other characters they throw into this movie aren't very memorable in my eyes. So that's why this movie is a little bit lower on the list.
The way I see it, someone's out to make a sequel. You know, cash in on all the movie murder hoopla. So it's our job to observe the rules of the sequel.
Now to get into my number 3rd spot, and that's going to be Scream 2. Yes, Scream 2 I think is a really good movie. I think the opening sequence where they're at the theater is an amazing, long, drawn out death sequence that was pretty creative that we haven't seen before in another slasher movie. So I think this movie opens up with some good meta commentary, and then it continues with that meta commentary when it gets into that film class and they're talking about sequels to movies and giving comparisons and saying some sequels that are better than the original. And I like that movie discussion because of course I'm a big movie fan, so I think the meta commentary in this movie works overall. I think there's some memorable death sequences in the movie. I like how Randy has a little bit bigger of a role in the movie, the film fan guy. He just has some good scenes in the movie talking about the rules of the sequel, and so I think that's all done well. And to me, the ending where it reveals the killers, I didn't know that those were going to be the killers. Now, I suspected them, but I had a few different suspects in this movie. So the reveal, I think, worked fine. The 2 killers they chose, I liked how they connected the mom to Billy Loomis, and so I think that worked connecting it to the first movie. And then the other killer you definitely bought as kind of a crazy person, and so the killer choices in this movie I think worked fine. Overall, the story kept you guessing, and I just think it was a solid continuation and worked good for a sequel to an iconic movie.
You ready for this? Never.
Now to get into second place, and that's going to be the new Scream movie, if you want to call it Scream 5. But I really like this movie. To me, it was the funniest out of any of the Scream movies. There was a lot of laugh out loud moments in this movie, and it was completely unexpected because it's a horror movie, but to me, the comedy part of it really shined through. Also, a lot of the kills in this movie were just brutal and just had amazing shock value. And so I was very intrigued watching this movie throughout. And to me, I did not guess who the killers were going to be. To me, I thought there was a lot of different suspects here and that it really could be anyone. And I did not guess. You know, I should have guessed because there were some signs showing who the killers were going to be, but I truly did not know until the end. And then once I saw the end, then I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I liked how they did this movie as kind of like a requel, they say, right? It's not really a true sequel, it's not really a reboot, it's like a mixture of the both. And so that was good commentary on what horror franchises are doing now. And so I like that part of it. The only drawback in this movie to me was that it gets a little too meta at sometimes, especially when it gets to the end. It's like hardcore meta, like beating you over the head meta. And I think it gets a little too much at that part, but I still think the ending sequence was very entertaining. So overall, I just had a fun time with this film, and I think it was really great with it being a fifth installment. So that's why I had to put it at second place. So good of a movie.
Certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
Now to get into my number one favorite choice, and that's going to be the original Scream. Was there any doubt here? This movie is just so iconic, and when you go back and rewatch it again, you just see how it celebrates the horror franchise and all the cliches and tropes of the horror movies, but it does it in a subtle way where you pick up on it, but it's not too over the top. So it's just a great horror celebration of a movie. It has those satirical elements throughout, but not only that, it doesn't just work as a satire for horror movies, it works just as a horror movie, as a slasher film. If you took all that other stuff out, you still have a fun mystery here. And this one, truly, I don't think anybody guessed who the killer was going to be, because this is the first time seeing a Scream movie we did not know there was going to be two killers. So when two killers are revealed at the end, it is extremely shocking and something different that other slasher films have not done before. So I thought that was absolute genius. And then also all the characters in this movie are so memorable, and just this original cast here is fantastic, with Randy, of course, being my favorite character, talking about the rules to a horror movie. I mean, that stuff was just gold. Absolutely fantastic. This movie is so rewatchable. And of course, you have people like Matthew Lillard in this movie as Stu, and he is such a great over the top character, but he's so memorable. And that to me describes the movie and sums it up. A very memorable movie that I think we're all going to remember in the future. Just Scream has to be number one out of this entire franchise that kicked it off.
You want one? Yeah, sure. I'll be right back.
So that will do it for today's mega ranking of the entire Scream film franchise. Let me know in the comments below, how would you rank these Scream movies? Which ones are your absolute favorite and why? That's going to be a fun movie discussion down below. Also, if you're discovering my channel for the first time, make sure you subscribe right now. I'm going to get you tons of future movie content. Gonna get you movie rankings, movie reviews, movie news weekly, movie hauls, movie unboxings. We talk everything movies on this channel, and I don't want you to miss out on any of that movie entertainment value. So subscribe right now and turn on that notification bell so you know when I post a video, because I'm always posting content for you on this channel. Also, like the video, and this is Mega Mike the Movie Man reminding you to make every day a movie day.